Angelina Sáenz. I am the host of La Palabra with Avenue 50 Studio, and I'd like to welcome you here to our 20-minute poetry reading with Propaganda. I feel like he is something of a celebrity when I was researching him. I had the fortune to read with him a month ago or so, and I was just blown away, by the combination of words and the analysis and how you got me thinking about things in a particular way. So I'm so glad that you said yes to read with us. Thank you so much. So I am going to read his bio. And I actually also encourage all of you, when you get a chance, to look at his website. I'll read the bio from here. Propaganda is a poet, political activist, husband, father, academic, and MC, with LA flowing through his veins and armed with a bold message. Propaganda has assembled a body of work that challenges and guides. Propaganda's ideas stem from where he sits at the intersection. He sees how cultures cross and inspire one another and can see the oneness of us all. Propaganda will cause you to nod your head, but more importantly, he will stretch your mind and heart. I couldn't agree more. But, if you all look at his website, there's links to his latest work. There are videos. There's a podcast that he does with his wife. It's really, it's a lot of content to feed your mind and feed your heart. So without further ado, I turn it over to you, Propaganda. Thank you so much for being here, and you're on.
Yo. What's up, y'all? Man, thank you for that. Angelina, even hearing you say in between stuff just felt like soul care to me. Yeah, a little bit about me. I was born in South Central, but I grew up in between South Central and Belinda, or like the San Gabriel Valley. So just hearing you just say in between stuff is just like, oh my God, it's soul food. Anyway, yeah, dude, honored to do this. Glad it worked out. I was a little nervous just because like Sundays, my wife don't play, you know what I'm saying? And like, she's like, look, weekends are ours. So I was glad that she was down. So yeah, a little bit of time, man. I'll drop a few poems. I see the shout out to Humble Beast, man. Appreciate you, dog. I'll just get to the poetry, then I'll talk about Humble Beast. But yeah, this poem's called This poem calls 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So in 2017, for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we were on Pangea, one land, one nation, one planet, and I and my ancestors were the same age, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. We saw how small we are. We saw how privileged we are to see how small we are. We saw black was beautiful. And if you just let black be black and it blocks out the light reveals the brilliance it didn't even know it had. We should trust black more. Mixed metaphors can speak volumes. The planet knew we needed it. We were 2 days away from Nazis marching on American soil, spitting the most vile irony on the American myths, the greatest generation rhetoric. We were 3 days away from cars, driving into peace, white lives matter, blood and soil, appropriated Polynesian mosquito repellents turned white hoods, tiki torches turned burnt crosses, frat boy uniforms in all khaki, which were kind of funny though. But 2 days ago, we were one planet, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Our perspective, it was orbital. And wouldn't you know it, when you look back down at the ground from space, the word America ain't written across the ground. It don't look like the maps. Streaked across the globe, streamed revolution televised. Bend Oregon highways turned into one ways to support the traffic. Kim Jong was singing Bob Marley. Vladdy French kissed Trump. Ta-Nehisi and Cornell squashed their beef. Biggie and Tupac did a song together. Stormy Daniels and the Prophet Daniel drank Thunderbird. Weinstein thought twice about unzipping. Elvis and swing dancing finally admitted to being appropriators and gentrifiers. And Meek was set free early. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I straightened my side eye at them silly little red hots. And hippie white girls with hula hoops. Who cared about traffic on the 405? Heavenly bodies just showed off their curves. Beautiful stretch marks. Space can be so sexy. We let our appetite for destruction satiate for a second. Traded our guns for roses. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Was you too cool for the glasses? Was you too stupid to not look directly at it? Did our president actually look directly at it? After every expert said, don't look directly at it, did you laugh? Have you ever made out with somebody you know you shouldn't have? Have you ever touched something you know you wasn't supposed to touch? 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Hey, you ever seen an eclipse? You ever been to Stonehenge? You ever felt connected to Mayans and Druids at the same time? Dogons, Egyptians, Etruscans, Ethiopians. Hey, you ever experienced something that was so far above you and was going to happen whether you was there or not? Yet it felt like the entirety of the cosmos conspired just to show you something about yourself. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I just hope we're alive for the next one. So that's 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Yeah. Thanks for having me. A lot of my poetry, it comes from like observation of myself and of culture. Like I try not to give a lot of prescription, if you will, but just observation and commentary, like observe and report, you know what I'm saying? And just, there's something I kind of learned from, my foremothers, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, hey, if you just kind of slow down and just observe, just watch better, you know what I'm saying? It'll just kind of like a lot of wisdom will be revealed to you, you know what I'm saying? So that's where I try to like lay my poetry at. So the Humble Beast stuff for life. It's funny because it's on my arm, and I did help found Humble Beast between me and one of my closest friends, Odd Thomas. Some of y'all may not know because that's like in some ways it's kind of a past life, but maybe after the Crooked record, we kind of parted ways, me and Humble Beast, not in a bad way, but in a way that like the owner and the A&R just took other jobs. They both started churches. So like you can't run a label and start a church. So, and then our design team and production manager, they started a creative agency. So wasn't nobody in the office except for the office manager. So like there is no label. Like there's nobody there, you know what I'm saying? And I wish them well. So they, the label kind of pivoted to more of a like almost like mentoring and discipling artists rather than putting out artists' work, so I'm not necessarily Humble Beast for life anymore, but we are lifelong friends. I've known those fools since I was a teenager, so it's all love. So anyway, just so people don't know that, but or maybe have. If you've noticed, none of my merch says Humble Beast anymore. That's kind of why. Anyway, so speaking of which, this next poem I would call it's called It's Complicated. And I think it has to do with, cool. Yeah, that was the answer, Joe or Josh. Speaking of this very thing, it's like, a lot of times from the public, you would think that like relationships between artists and label or friends or, whether it's, philosophical or, your religion or whatever the case is, you'd see those relationships as pretty linear. Um, even your political views, like a lot of times we see those as very linear. Like if you're this, then you must be that, you know what I'm saying? Or you must think this. And if your experience is that, and it's just, I think we all know that intuitively that that's not the case. But when we try to download and speak about things for the sake of understanding, we tend to uh, oversimplify, and try to get ourselves in categories. And that's just, I think, I just think nuance is like sacred work, and so this poem is more about, it's called It's Complicated, and it's about that nuance. All right. So we are often our own demise, and I am becoming procrastination. Like you are so often so wrong about you and you don't even know it. You've self-identified as particle board, paper mache, duct taped, and you are wrong and right and confused. It's complicated. But so is a star, a flower, a quasar, a friendship, a marriage. May we be refuge for the complicated. And as for me, well, I have zipped up my emotions into this dusty duffel bag that I've aptly named poetry. And I'll be on my merry way soon as my pride turns me loose and unmangle the last morsel of manhood I can produce, ma'am. I seem to have misplaced my confidence. Last place I seen it was at the altar of your love, and it's complicated. And I am becoming complicated. And we may scratch ourselves raw to try to erase the image we were made in. Smoke, snort, sex, or drown out the silence. And we may waste our life savings on makeovers to try to rhinoplast our daddy's nose away, but no nip, no tuck could cut away the sense of obligation. We are becoming what we're not, and what we are is inescapable. You are a masterpiece, and you're fighting to be a silly selfie with a hideous filter. You are heaven's handmade calligraphy, slumming it among papyrus fonts. You're the completed perfect works of a perfect and eternal poet laureate with a laundry list of identity issues. And sometimes, man, they'll tell you your plumbing don't match your urges. But your femininity, it forced a force field that protected our posterity. Your masculinity musters up moxie to conquer mountains for our families. You are the rightful heirs to not just a kingdom, but a universe. You got your mama's eyes. Stop being so traitorous. You are revelation revealed, pyramid constructors, conductors. You are conduits of lightning, yet you speak and you breathe. It's arsenic carcinogenics, and it causes car sickness. But these scars are our witness. To love hard is hard living, but that's life. That's who we are. It's messy and uncomfortable and complicated. But so is a star. In parenting, in childbirth, in middle school, in love, in us. Yeah, and us. So yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, so that's that poem. Having a lot to do with, like I said, like kind of accepting that maybe you're more than your categories, and being willing to sort of um, sort of jump forward into sort of the unknown. On a personal note, I'm the child of a Black Panther, um, and my family had uh, a lot of ties, like in just the old, just Southern Baptist, California, Black church. I grew up going to a church that was predominantly Black and Latino out in Azusa. And I remember really just having a complicated relationship with sort of the faith of my grandmother and my great grandmother, who were probably the most like just the realest, most authentic, like they were the holiest people I knew. You know what I'm saying? But my grandma was, I mean, she was gangster as hell. Don't get me wrong. My grandma was 73rd and San Pedro. Like she was a gangster. You know what I'm saying? But uh their 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 faith, it was one of those things where I was like, I can't deny what would get someone through a slave ship and Jim Crow. Like I'm not, how am I look at them and think that I'm somehow more evolved, you know what I'm saying? Uh Knowing what they went through. That said, as I got older, uh some of those categories just didn't resonate for me much, you know. Um but not to the point to where I was willing to like, you know, look my grandma in the face and be like, I don't know about your white Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not finna do that to her, you know. Uh, but but then like you said, but the nuance, the appreciation of um maybe saying whatever this thing is that got these white people worshiping Donald Trump and calling themselves Christians, which is not what my grandmother modeled, and then trying to like find your way in the middle of that. It just got complicated. You know what I'm saying? But I, like I said, I landed at that phrase y'all saying, that nuance, man, that it's sacred and it's beautiful. And it's probably one of the most like freeing things to like let go of just sort of this like Western um, empiricism, you know, living in the shadow of the Enlightenment that needs to be like I got to have all the notions together, you know what I'm saying? Or that contradictory can't live in the same universe, but contradictions live in the same universe all the time. You know what I'm saying? And just sort of allowing myself to kind of live in that nuance. And when you do, you know what I'm saying, then you can observe yourself better, observe the world better. And I found that like sort of my spiritual sort of metal has I think has gotten stronger, but stronger in the sense that it's more malleable because it's complicated. All right. So in an observation of myself, this poem right here is called "I Hate Cats," and I own one. Well, my daughter does because she finessed me into getting one, but I really don't like cats. So let me kick in a little story here. Back in the old times when you could go on tour, my wife and my daughter, well, this was before my baby daughter was born, they would bond by going to these animal shelters, right? And playing with the cats. But see, here's the thing. I hate cats. Well, hate's a strong word. It's just more that I'm a dog person. But these cats, these demon spawns, I don't trust them. They always look like they plotting a murder, right? Like cats be putting in work. Have you ever seen a movie? What does the weird old lady have? What about the villains' pets? They evil. See, the ancient Egyptians knew that and they built pyramids, so they was on to something, right? Well, I would receive these terrifying messages in my text of my child smiling in the throes of full bliss, holding what has to be the greatest letdown of a cousin. Cats are related to lions. You share taxonomy with tigers. Tigers. Why are you so cupcake? And why does my child have to have one of all things, a cat? Hate's a strong word. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not like a bigot or nothing. I mean, I don't see species. You know, my neighbor, they had a cat, and my babysitter when I was a child, she had a cat. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of God-fearing people up in this thing right now that got cats in their home, just not in my home. They stink. They be rubbing their terrible pheromones all over my furniture, but alas, kicking and screaming, I force a smile on my face as my child brings this thing home. And to be honest, I thought I raised her better than that. See, You come from a dog family. Why couldn't you love a dog? See, these are just the words of an innocent, of a caring father. People may think a certain way about you when you walking down the street, and what you walking a cat for anyway? They gonna think I ain't raised my child well. And it's not that this cat has done anything to me personally. It's just I know they kind. I be seeing them on the news. They be tearing up the homes they owners provide for them. Why can't all cats lazy? Why can't they be grateful? You be seeing them complaining about their oppression. Don't the people that take care of you well? Haven't we had cats in the White House? Ain't that enough? But then my child brings his cat home, and my experience was quite different. I actually enjoyed my time with it, but that's not the point. The point is, I've already made up my mind. It's not the cat's fault. See, it's kind. See, this is my heritage. Not hate. It's my heritage. I come from a dog family. We keep dogs in our house. Because, you know, hate's a strong word. We still talking about cats, right? So that's I hate cats, which I'm pretty sure y'all astute enough to know that I'm talking about racism. And what was crazy was like, so the backstory was, yeah, my child went to this animal shelter, and you know, they would go off to my children would go off to school. My wife would go off to work, and if I'm not touring, I'm just home. So I just remember looking at this cat like, do something. Like, this is so dumb. Dude, why are you here? I hate the smell. Like, I just was just like, but the cat never did anything to me. And I was like, I have no reason to dislike this cat. I just already decided I don't, you know? And then we got one of them little toys, them little mouse on a string. All of a sudden, its instincts, it was a little black cat. All of a sudden, the cat looked like a cougar. Like it became a panther, like its instincts kicked in. And I was like, okay, this is kind of dope. So I started playing with it. And then I was embarrassed. I'm home by myself, but I was embarrassed that I actually liked the cat because I was having fun. But I was like, but I like this particular cat. So then I thought to myself, this must be what like a racist daddy must feel when I walk in the door. You know what I'm saying? And then I was like, ooh, am I no different than a racist daddy? And I was like, this would be a great poem. So that's what I mean. It was like an honest observation of myself, like made this poem. And I was like, dog, that's how y'all sound. So maybe if we remove the conversation from black and white, you can hear what's happening. You feel me? Like if I just make it very clear to you that like, you see how ridiculous I sound about this cat? That's how y'all sound about racism. So that's I hate cats. Yeah, which was, you know, just like I said, just an observation of myself. Let me see. What's another poem I could.
You know, I wanted to say that I feel like the poem about nuance and I feel not lately, I feel like my whole lifetime, I always just want to talk about how I experience things and not like the big paradigm and, you know, all these preconceived notions, even about how I'm supposed to feel about things as a Chicana, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time, right? I was telling somebody, I said, oh, you know, when I was growing up, the first book that I ever read was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and or it could be Emily Bronte, one of those pinche Bronte girls. You know, but you know, somebody was like, you know how racist the Brontes were, and they went off on me, and I was like, oh my God. You know, I said the thing is that, you know, Jane Eyre was like so abused. So when I read that book, and she overcame all of her poverty and everything. So I looked at the person, I do this all the time, and I was like, oh, okay, I hear, whoa. I was like, whoa, tsunami. And I just said, just be with me as a 7th grader at Mount Vernon Junior High on Washington Boulevard, reading Jane Eyre in the madness that I was living in. And it helped me, right? So aside from that like whole breakdown and what I should and should not feel and how I should have experienced things. I was like, I was a kid experiencing that. It did something for me. But I feel that way, period. As a woman, I'm going through life and experience, and then people are trying to regulate how I should experience and think about things, right? So I appreciate, I don't know if that's what your piece was going for, but I think nuance is universality, and that's what brings us together, what's universal, right? And then the cat piece, I have dogs. And my thing with the dogs is like, I don't do pets. We were too poor to have pets. There was no feeding pets, none of that biz. And so, my kids are like, come on, let's do dogs. Okay, fine, we got dogs. But it's been like, I've had to go to therapy, or so I should go to therapy, because I cannot emotionally connect with them. Because for me, it's like another emotional relationship. And I can't do all of that stuff. So the dog thing, my kids are like, something's wrong with you. And I'm like, y'all feed them, water them, I'll buy the food, you walk them. I'm not having anything to do with those dogs.
Yes, dude, both, you've nailed them both, because yeah, so the idea of this complicated thing is that it's like, the idea that like could not the most wicked man would not offer a drink of water to somebody on fire. You know what I'm saying? That like we are all of these things at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that you absolutely nailed it. And then what's funny about the pet thing, it's like, I feel like inside of every black man is a really old black man. And and I mean, it's like, I seriously, like, this is one of my life goals. This stuff like kept me off the streets, is because I cannot wait to be just an old head and be able to like say what the hell I want to say. You know what I'm saying? And like, so with these animals, I felt the same way. Like, the old head in me is just like, listen, I am not gonna pay no kind of bill for somebody my wife ain't give birth to. Like, I don't have to have you in my house. You mean to tell me you got a food bill? Don't let the animal get sick. I refuse to have a medical bill for an animal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and it's so expensive.
And it's so expensive. And that's the thing too. You grow up hood. It's like, for me, it was like, man, it was dogs everywhere. You just,
right.
You want a dog, go run outside, pet that one, and run across the street all the time. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, when my family hit a tax return one year, and it moved us out of like the projects, right? So we got like a little single family home, right? And the first thing I noticed in that neighborhood we moved to was there were no stray dogs. It was the first thing I noticed. And I was just like, how come this?
I mean, I'm to the point, I mean, but speaking of, changing, and you can't like pin somebody, right? Because there's a good song, you might know it, called by Mercedes Sosa, called Todo Cambia. I don't know. I'll send you the song.
Please do.
It's all about change, and she actually changed over her career. And I went to her last concert before she passed away, and people were shouting in the audience for her to sing her beginning songs.
Yeah.
And she didn't. She was like, I am singing what I just wrote, y'all. And at the very end, she sang one of her old songs, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, speaking of just changing over time, the other day I was driving and I saw a stray dog, and I freaking slowed down, and I was like, does it have a collar? And I was like, oh no.
What's happening?
I was like, no, I care about stray dogs now. And I've been noticing, I've been slowing down when I see stray dogs. And I'm like, do they have a collar? What? Ooh, I was like, ooh, girl.
What's happening?
You caught the vapor, the pet vapor.
What is happening? Nah, I feel you, man. It's like, I've had to embrace some of that. It's like, you realize, like, and I heard a little bit in your, in your poetry you read, and the other stuff I listened to, it's like, when you grow up in a constant state of like, you're in fight or flight all the time,
right? Survival.
You forget about other feelings, and it feel like anybody having any other feelings, man, they soft, man. Y'all ain't, man, you ain't got no, you know what I'm saying? And then And then now that my children like actually are willing to cry over stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's because we've made a healthy environment for them. That's why
Or
they're able to cry. And I'm mad. You know what I'm
or
saying?
you're like, oh, that's to cry over. It's like you forget how to feel, and then the kid's crying. You're like, oh, mental note, human being in development. You cry over things like that, right? Because I'm like, I
This
don't
is
cry
actually sad. Yeah.
right,
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, the hell is you crying for? Like, cry over something important. And it's like,
right,
well, that's,
right,
you just lived in a constant state of fight or flight.
right.
Anyway, that's funny, dude. Yeah, but yeah, nah, you nailed it. That's
Yeah.
nailed
Well,
it.
take us out with your last poem, Propaganda. Again,
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us
My pleasure.
today. I
Yeah,
can't
this
say
is
that I
fun.
always jump in and chat with the poets, but I felt compelled with your work. I really love your work,
Dude,
and
thank
how
you.
you
Vice
put things
versa.
together. You kind of have like a little philosophical thing going on, contemplation. So I really
That's what I'm
appreciate
doing.
it. Thank you so
Dude,
much.
you've caught all the non-verbals. That's so dope. You know what I mean? That's all. So since you do, it's like, yeah, nah, chime in. That's great. Um, so yeah, so staying on that on that angle. So we'll close out like this. Uh, and now you oceans, you mighty blue tides, tell us your stories. Spare no punches, hold no pitches. Your legacy. It's as beautiful as dark matter or the heart of a woman you sunsets. Show me no mercy. Tell us how we made you proud and failed you in the same breath.
Hmm.
How hands that lay waste to hopes and dreams can be shapers of epic destinies. How every triumphant march is chocked full of Achilles' heels. How our heroes, they're flawed and fallen. How life is it's funny, it's fast, it's slow, it's both and, it's either or, it's patient building, it's ugly, it's smelly. You boneyards. Remind me that I am animated dust. And so is the pedestal I put my mama on.
Hmm.
And the platforms we use to reach ears and sit in hard drives. Remind me that we are not so different. And sit and eat and feast at the same table and teach me to pay attention to this moment. And please be merciful enough to show me and teach me that we are already home.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know we'll
Thank
see
you.
each other again. We'll continue more.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Yes.
to
Thank
the
you.
folks who joined us today. La Palabra will be back in February with our winter series. Everyone have an amazing Sunday. Thank goodness 2020 is behind us. We made it. And
Whew.
we'll see you all in the new year. All right.
Yeah.
Have
All
a good
right,
one.
y'all.
Thank you.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye bye.